Hi, I'm Aaron, and I wanted to make this video about a crash that I recently had. And I'm in the process of trying to put it behind me because it was an ugly crash. It shouldn't have happened, but it did, and I walked away from it. I'm trying to put it behind me and learn something from it and pass along a little bit of what I learned to the hang gliding community. So I hope it helps some other folks too. I'm thankful for all my flying friends that helped me through this crash situation. It's about a week since it happened, a little over a week, and I'm still sore. My ribs are sore and chest is sore. My glider's totally destroyed. The keel's broken, the leading edges are damaged, nose plates are damaged, let's see, the wires are compromised, down tubes are broken, the sail's torn in a couple of places, the heart bolt is bent like a U shape. So the glider really took it tough. It absorbed quite a bit of the shock. My body hit on a small stump, and the harness and the parachute took the brunt of that blow. I mean, I'm still sore, but I wasn't bleeding and I wasn't skewered, so you know, I got really lucky that way. I decided to put this video out there for all the hang glider pilots because it's really important to launch well. And I've had several mentors since I've started flying, and I've learned a bit from every one of them. And you know, I've been flying the mountains for, oh, I don't know, probably 8 years since took me a while to get through learning how to launch and all that, and after I started feeling confident to fly the mountains, I've been flying with my mentors ever since. So I guess what I wanted to say is that, you know, when something goes wrong that you've done successfully many times, and you look at it and you're like, how in the world did this happen? It's so frustrating. But you know, it makes you think, and it gives you pause. You gotta go and review it and review it and review it and talk with other people. And so I won't be flying for a month or so until my ribs and my chest feel better. So I had some time to work on this and really reflect on it. I want to fly again, and I want to learn from this and then be able to put it behind me and not be freaked out on launch when I'm flying in the future. I had sent a first cut of this video out to the club right after it happened, as soon as I could after it happened, just to kind of make everybody aware of what happened, and so that they had a chance to see it. Anyways, I thank you for your comments, and you know, all the different pilots that responded to me and tried to help me out, and not only hauling out the wreckage that day, but also, you know, follow-up calls to just check on me, see how I was doing, and you know, also looking at the video and offering different, you know, bits of advice and observations. So certainly thankful for all of that. My mentor Will, who was watching up top, he gave me a phone call after this happened, and he explained to me that what happened was the wind switched right as I was beginning to run there. He said it turned to a wind out of the south, a crosswind, and that really, you know, jives with what I saw in the video, and I slowed the video way down so that I could see what was see this in detail as it played out. So anyways, also other pilots gave ideas and so forth that have helped solidify my thought process for launching. And basically this is going to be kind of like my checklist for future launching. I never really had a written checklist. I just kind of went through the steps that I had learned, but now having this happen to me made it a whole lot more important to me to actually sort of go over a checklist right before I launch, and then make sure that I follow through on all the steps that I intended to. So, maybe not everyone has had this kind of same experience, or maybe they didn't have the same mentors that I had. So, I guess what I'm saying is I'm putting this out there for the pilot community because I think I learned something through it, and I think a lot of the mentors that I've had over the years have chimed in on these emails and have given bits of advice that can be beneficial for any mountain pilot that's launching similar type sites. So I guess what I'm going to do here is try to review some of these mountain slope launch best practices, and then this is going to form the basis of my checklist going forward. So without further hopefully without boring you to death, I'm going to go through each of these points. And here's one that I sort of came up with because I fly 2 gliders. I have a glider that I fly on light days, and then I had a glider that I would fly on more windy days. Not that I couldn't interchange these gliders on most days and fly either, but I kind of had one pegged for lighter days and one pegged for more windy days. So, I need to consider what glider performance that I'm flying today. If I'm going to fly, what glider am I using? And I need to remember that they're different animals. I mean, the higher performance wing has a higher stall speed. I need to factor that in on the airspeed that I need to get the thing safely launched. So, what I get away with on one glider in some conditions may not work under all conditions. And also, beyond the glider, what I can get away with 99% of the time, it may not work that other 1% of the time. And, I can control what I do. I can try to control what I do, but I can't control what the wind does. Something I wanted to mention about the stall speed of the wings. If you have one wing that stalls at 13 mile an hour and one that stalls at 20 mile per hour, I mean, you essentially need to accelerate that glider up to that stall speed, no matter what, that airspeed, if you want that thing to fly. And you're getting a helping hand on a day where you're getting nice wind blowing in at your launch, but there's other days where you may have to do a no-winder, so you need to run really hard with that faster wing to attain that minimum airspeed that the thing needs to fly. And then if you go and throw a crosswind into the situation or something like that, you're just not, you may not be achieving the minimum that thing needs to fly, because you're only getting a component of that wind coming at you. So, or coming directly at the wind, you're only getting a component of it. So, Anyways, I'm going to continue on here. You know, stall speed's the minimum airspeed that thing needs to fly at. Below that, that wing will not fly. It'll mush. And you know, that airspeed is absolutely critical, as you'll see in this video. So here's some of these pointers that were, you know, given back to me again, you know, in the process of making this video, and also, you know, just communication with other pilots. Look at the launch site. Check the locations of the streamers. If needed, add more streamers to offer information to the sides and near the launch ramp, and also further down the hill where the air's, you know, the wind is coming up from. Another helpful thought is to put a streamer right on your nose wire. That way you know what the wind is doing right at the wing itself. Plus you can see in your periphery what all the other streamers are doing. Another point is watch some thermal cycles and see how long they last and see how they feel. The next point is to make sure the pitch, the nose angle, is set into the relative wind before running, i.e. the nose is pulled down until it doesn't have pressure from the wind. In other words, you're not feeling the wing trying to pick up. You pull it down, pull the nose down by pushing the down tubes back and tightening the hang strap, and then you have the glider set for the right pitch. Something I wanted to mention, and I've made a prop to show what I'm talking about, is moving in the process of setting that pitch. You know, I could try to set the pitch up here on this flatter sloping area, but then as soon as I begin to run, this nose is going to get the relative wind coming up the slope. So my pitch is now not right for the wind to cut through. So what I have been doing, and I've been told this by many experienced pilots, is to walk your feet right out here to the steep part of the hill and set the pitch for the actual slope of the hill. That way, now the wing is entirely in the wind, because that wind is coming up and it's catching all portions of the wing. So now you can actually feel what the glider is doing, feel what the air that's hitting the glider. Back here you can't. You cannot feel it well. And Heiner's notorious for that, because it's flat here and then there's a wall back here, and you get wall effects there. So on, I would say, every good launch that I've had, I've come out to the point, set the pitch of the glider, and then, you know, basically walk, jog, run, accelerate down. Let's see, what did I miss? Okay, ensuring a tight hang strap at launch is important. The way I've been shown to do this is pull up on the down tubes until the strap is tight before launching. You can feel it. If you reach down and pick up the glider low on the down tubes and then stand up, you should feel that strap tighten. And then it's a double check. You also know that you're hooked in then, and it kind of helps you to brace the glider as you're dealing with the wind situation. Why is the tight hang strap important? Well, it's important because that center of gravity is where you're pulling on that glider from with that strap. And if you have it tight when you go to take off, what's going to happen is your glider is going to get immediately loaded from not only your weight as you get into the control frame, you know, and are flying, but it's also going to minimize that time where the glider doesn't have any control on it. So basically, if you start out with a tight hang strap and you start running, immediately the glider is being pulled by that hang strap. You're not pushing with your arms, you're guiding the glider with your arms, and you're pulling that glider like a bull through that strap. So that tension on the hang strap is you know, giving you control of that glider by pulling it through that CG. Once I've locked my handhold positions on the down tubes, as I rock that glider forward and more nose down, I feel the hang strap being snug. Another point is, you know, I want to make sure that the loading on each wing is equal just before the start of the run. Another a way to help do that is picking up the glider and letting it weather vane or yaw into the direction that the glider wants to be in at the moment in that type of wind. So back to the diagram or the model here. So if I'm sitting up here and the wind is maybe coming from this way, maybe the glider will, you know, actually it'll yaw over that way and try to weather vane into the true wind direction that it sees. If the wind was coming from this way, maybe the glider wants to just face itself right into the wind. That's what we are calling weather vaning. So that's a trick that was mentioned to me by another pilot, that he compares the direction that he's going, you know, or the running path. Say this is the running path. He compares that to what the glider yaw is when the glider yaws itself, and if it's too much to make a safe launch, he won't launch. So I mean, that's going to be something that I'm going to be definitely looking at going forward, is letting the glider yaw into the wind a little bit on my shoulders while I'm still maintaining the pitch control on the wing. So I don't know, what am I doing here? I'm missing some stuff, but anyways, I don't want to miss any of these points. Oh, okay. In that same practice, what I was talking about, letting the glider yaw a little bit, during that process, I'm going to be looking at my streamers, you know, not only down below, off maybe closer streamers to where I'm at. I'm also going to be looking off to the side, peripheral at a couple things over there, scanning that. I won't be, you know, looking at it steadily, but scanning it. And if everything's telling the same story, that's what I'm gonna use as my decision to launch. And if it's not all consistently telling me the same story, I'm not gonna launch. So I think what I'm getting at here is that I want my nose wire streamer to be telling me the same thing that these two streamers are telling me. And if these ones down here are farther away from me, I'm going to be hitting into that wind, but more so after I've actually launched. But anyways, something else that another experienced pilot reiterated, or you know, so as I'm doing those checks on launch, looking at all the information available, I'm also relaxing and I'm feeling what's going on with the wind and the glider. I'm feeling it, you know, does it feel heavy or is it unbalanced? If it's unbalanced, I'm not gonna launch. If it feels balanced and if it feels light, there we go. Time to launch. If all the information is telling me the same thing. So let's see. Another pilot reiterated the need to walk, jog, and run during this whole process of launching. So I'm sitting up here on launch. I got my glider. It's maybe yawing ever so slightly, not much. It's pretty much in line with my running path. So I'm going to start out with a falling step or two. I'm already standing on the lip, but instead of jackrabbiting, I'm gonna take a step that's falling, another step that's falling, and let the wing fully match the slope of that wind so that it's knife edging through that wind. And then I'm going to begin to run. And what was brought out to me by an experienced pilot is, you know, that jogging, couple steps of jogging before you really pour on the power in your legs. At that point, you're also feeling the glider and you're kind of letting it do what it wants to do into the wind. Like if it wants to yaw a little bit, fine. It's gonna do that. Let it do it. But you know, you're also controlling the roll and you're controlling the pitch. But you're letting the glider yaw a little bit if it wants to. But then, you know, then comes on the pouring on of the power. Okay, now I got to accelerate this glider from that falling step, a couple jogging steps, and now it's like pour on the power. You're running like a linebacker, leaning over, pulling through that hang strap, accelerating that glider up to 20 miles an hour so that thing can follow that ridge and then swoop out of there, and you got plenty of energy, plenty of power, plenty of airspeed. So what I was trying to explain there is that process of that walk, jog, run, and taking those couple falling steps and letting the glider really find itself on that relative wind pitch that's coming up there. You're avoiding popping the nose in doing it like that. Like if you stand back right here on the lip and you just bolt out of there, what happens is your body actually runs out from under the glider. The glider hasn't caught up to you. You're pulling with the strap, but the glider is not caught up. So then the glider pops a little bit, you know, and you don't want it to be popping. You want it to slowly, you know, if you're here, you want it to match that slope as it's accelerating, no popping, and then fly out of there. So let's see what else. Okay, this one's a good one. It's kind of funny, but it's called the control frame boogie, and it's a way that you can control the roll of the glider on while you're running, you know, down the launch. And I tried to do it in this. I tried to do the control frame boogie here as this glider was, as I was trying to accelerate this glider down the hill. But what I found is I was overpowered. But as far as the method, it's a great method. It was shown to me by an instructor early on in my flying, probably like a year in or something. Anyways, yeah, control frame boogie. So what is it? What's the control frame boogie? The control frame boogie is like if this wing starts to lift on takeoff, you can run with your body a couple steps towards the towards the wing that's lifting. And what it does, it'll help bring that wing back level. In this case where I tried to do it on this launch, it did not work, and it did not work for other reasons. The reason it didn't work for me on this launch is because the wind was cross really bad. So I've practiced that control frame boogie on flatter slopes, or you go to a field that's gently sloping and you have a nice, a wind blowing at you. You run down the field with your glider, and if you get a wing up a little bit, just a couple steps in the direction of the control frame that's on the high side will help bring that glider back to level. Let's see. What am I missing here? Okay, so now that I've covered most of that stuff related to methods that I'm going to be using and putting on my checklist going forward, I want to go over what happened on this crash so that you can understand it from my perspective and some bystanders. So in my case on this bad launch, I was standing there for a while before I made the decision to launch. I was watching the cycles coming in, and I had seen a cycle kind of finish up, and I didn't want to launch at the end of that cycle. I was hoping to launch at the beginning of the next cycle. I think I went a little bit early, or too soon. I should have waited for the thermal to get to me. Instead, I launched into that sort of swirly, trashy air right before the thermal hit at that spot, or hit the launch. So I checked with my launch crew, with my wire crew, and I said, "Is it my glider?" And the glider felt balanced, so I made the decision to go. There may have been like a half a second until my first step, and at the time, the wind hit my left wing first. So I'm up here, getting ready to launch. Okay, ready, clear. This thing starts doing this right out of the gate. It starts going like this, and it's yawing, and the wind is, getting under this wing, and it's turning me. So I try to counteract that left wing lifting. I got all the way over into the control frame on this side, and I was trying to, you can see I'm pulling in on that down tube like this. But as this thing comes around, with the wind coming from this way, this wing was completely stalled, and this wing had a lot of lift. It's not only getting under it, but it's hitting it more directly, so it's flying. But the other wing, my right wing, was not flying. So essentially, this wing's flying great. This wing's actually becoming more stalled as the flight progresses. Very short flight, mind you, but so with all this said, picking the wrong time to launch was the biggest driver of this crash. Will told me that when he called me, he said, if you had launched a few seconds sooner, none of this would have happened. It wouldn't have been an issue. And if you would have decided to launch a few seconds later and just waited, he said you wouldn't have gone. You would have made the decision to not fly during that part of the cycle. What I wanted to share with you now is a couple observations in the video related to the wind conditions and the changes. So if you look close at the video, you'll see, and I'm gonna put it gonna make it so it's slowed down in this video so you can really see it. So the left streamer was closest to me, and it showed slight wind, you know, kind of a trickling in wind. Just before I made the decision to launch, that's what the streamer that was closer to me and at my, you know, a little bit left of me was showing. So what I was also seeing, and I don't know if it'll be evident in the video, but I was also looking down the hill and I was starting to see the trees rolling down there, like something was a cycle was coming up, and I was going to try to launch into that. So, you know, then during my run and just after my feet leave the ground, the glider turns more to the right. And now what you'll see, you can't see the left streamer anymore. All you'll be able to see is the streamer on the right. And at one point it starts, you know, you can see both streamers before I launch, and the one's trickling, the one's a little cross and trickling. But when I actually start to yaw like this and this wing I start turning, if you look over here at this streamer, right about before I hit it, before I actually ran over the streamer pole, I think, with my glider, what you'll see over there is it's wildly cross and it's strong, and then it's straight up in the air, like the streamer is straight up in the air. So what ended up happening here, and it just so quick, is that this air mass must have moved in on me as I'm standing there on launch, and now it's like being in a washing machine of switchy, swirly air. Another of my mentors, Karen, saw this video and, you know, saw it all unfold, and she said, you know, you need to think about what part of the thermal you're launching into. You know, don't launch prematurely into a thermal that's all rowdy and crazy, which is essentially what I did. And I jumped right in there, and it got wild, you know. So thinking about this, I kind of, thinking about it after the fact, you know, if you've seen it in different books, like you see a thermal and what that thermal might look like, you know, it's hitting this hill, that thermal might be going up here, but it hasn't drifted fully up to launch yet. So I'm launching over here, and the thermal's coming yet, but it's not to me. So what's this air doing over here? Well, at the ragged edge of that thermal, that air could be doing all kinds of different things. It could be, you know, swirling. It could be, you know, it could be sink here and lift here. It could be, you know, it's the ragged edge of the thermal. What Karen's saying, and you know, it makes a lot of sense now when I think about it. If you wait till that thermal comes all the way up and it gets established and it feels sweet, and it maybe you'll feel even a difference in temperature where it feels warm and it's stable and it's nice air coming up there. That's the time to launch. That thing about launching early so I can get into the thermal, bad idea. It was, and that's, you know, I guess I attribute this crash to that timing of launching just at a stupid time. One of the final things that I want to talk about in this video is what makes a crosswind launch in a hang glider so dangerous and pretty much unrecoverable in a strong cross. Well, you know, in a straight in wind situation, both wings are lifting about equally. You know, if you're here and the wind's straight in, you know, you could have a little variation, but essentially those wings are balanced. It wants to fly straight. In a crosswind situation, suppose the wind is coming from over here, and you know, this wing wants to fly, so the wind is directly going over the wing like this. If it's coming from this way, if that glider is there like that, that wind is going parallel to that wing. So that wing has no chance of flying really, unless somehow you can accelerate it fast enough and keep this wing from lifting, while that one gets airspeed on it, you know. What I wanted to, I'm getting mixed up here on how I'm saying this, but the swept back angle of the wing actually makes this worse with hang gliders. You know, with flex wing hang gliders that have quite a nose angle to them. Whoops, my prop dropped. So, you know, it's that difference. This wing is getting it. So that's the reason that yawing works. You know, now you're putting this wing more into the wind so that it gets balanced out. But still, that may be too much for your running path. So I'm not going to do that. Knowingly, I'm not going to do that. Trying to launch like that. I'm going to wait for everything to be good in the future. Not get into that situation unless it's really, really light. Then I guess, you know, you're basically doing a no wind launch, and you know that's certainly doable. That you just have to run hard and run long to do a no winder. But so I guess what I wanted to say, final thoughts about this: if the wind is coming at this upwind wing, it's going to lift. The downwind wing is going to stall. That's just what's going to happen, because the wind is going parallel to the wing. It's not going over the wing like it should be. So that's why, you know, I've wondered, you know, over the years I've heard different horror stories about bad accidents related to you know, launches, and a lot of them seem to be caused by like a crosswind or a stalled wing or something like that, where, you know, now I understand how this can happen and how it's pretty much unrecoverable. You know, in a serious crosswind launch situation, the wind is lifting that upwind wing, but it's doing nothing to lift the downwind wing. You know, possibly even you could be getting a little bit of a tailwind component on that wing if the cross is really bad. So this wing's still wanting to fly because it's a component of that is crossing the wing. This wing, it's parallel, and maybe even a little bit of downwind, or maybe a little bit of tailwind on that wing. So that thing is, that explains to me like why a lot of the accidents that you see related to a blown launch end up in this same situation where the one wing stalls and the glider just, you know, the one wing stalls and it just comes around and whacks back into the hill. That makes sense to me now. I guess I really didn't think about it that deeply. I mean, I heard the stories. I, you know, certainly felt bad for the pilots that it happened to, but I didn't study it enough or think about it deeply enough until this accident happened to me, and I just really delved into the details of what in the world was going on and watching the videos and stuff. So yeah, so that that drives home the point for me. If you get a stalled wing on launch, that's why you see a glider fly back into the hill. Or if you maybe a nose gets popped or something, and one of the wings stalls, it's what it's going to do is go circle back into the hill and slam into something. So after experiencing this myself and researching it, talking to other pilots, now I have a pretty good understanding of why in the world all these launch crashes kind of look similar when you see them. I probably won't be flying for a month or so, but doing this review and understanding what went wrong and how to take steps to avoid bad launches in the future, I think it's helping me to get over it. I want to get back on the horse right now, but I have to wait on my physical recovery. I don't think that I could muscle a glider around right now. Even getting one on and off the truck would be pretty excruciating. But anyway, I want to get back on the horse. I think I'm mentally prepared to do it again. I just need to heal up physically and go out on a nice day and get some airtime. So anyway, I hope this review helped you to understand this stuff as much as it helped me to go through it and collect all these comments up and put this video out. So I hope that anybody that sees this that is having issues with launches or whatever, just wants to review, I hope it will help you, and I hope it will help different pilots to avoid painful launch situations like the one I was in. With that said, I also, in this video, I put a previous launch clip in from Heiner where the launch went well. I had good airspeed. I launched in a sweet cycle. I did that because I wanted to compare this launch that went wrong to one that went right. And it was kind of a similar day in a way, where it was sort of trickling in wind, wasn't real strong, but the cycle was sweet and the air was not violent when I launched. It was just nice. That video that I'm putting in there of the launch that went well, that's maybe the last sighting of this North Wing Liberty in videos for a long while, maybe forever. If I end up fixing that thing, it's kind of doubtful. It's in bad shape. So unless I have some unused past footage of the Liberty, you won't be seeing that one around anymore. It's on the shelf. It's a parts glider at this point. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and fly safe out there. If there's any stuff you can use out of this video, go ahead and give it a try. But I'm no expert on this, but I've been flying for some years now, and I've had a lot of good mentors that guided me, gave me direction, and I would say going from being a hang 2 to eventually getting the skills to be a hang 4 and the airtime and everything, so much like the flight schools that you go to and you learn there, but then when you get out in the real world and you're like flying on your own, and you got to make the decisions, and you got mentors there that can help you and guide you, give you guidance, different things along the way. I'd say that's where you really learn so much, is getting a chance to fly with other pilots and sharing the experience there. And I'd say too, going to different flying sites where you're out of your comfort zone is a big thing too, because you know, if you keep flying the same site again and again and again, you could get complacent with what you're doing. And you know, in a way, this accident that I had here might be chalked up a little bit to getting complacent with flying Heiner, because I've flown it so many times and different conditions and stuff like that, that you just kind of get used to it, and you're like, oh yeah, no problem, you know, I'm flying Heiner again. Well, you know, that's something you don't ever want to do, is get complacent, even if it's a place where you've been flying for years, because stuff can happen so quick. But what I wanted to say about the trying to fly at different sites and flying with other pilots, you pick things up. I mean, if I don't know how many different types of launch situations I've been in or had, but I'd have to go try to count them all up. But I've been flying different sites for, oh, I don't know, pretty much for the last 4 years or so. I've been trying to get around to different sites, and you learn something. It challenges you. Every different site challenges you, because it's different conditions, it's a different environment. You're there seeing it for maybe the first time, and it causes you to go through like all your stuff that you used to labor over. Well, when you go to a new site, basically you have to labor over that all again, and it sort of forces you to go through that mental checklist of what you're doing and how you're going to do it, and you know, everything from launching to the flying, you know, learning what the ridge is doing, or you know, learning where the thermals might be. But then you're also having to set up a landing approach at a totally different spot that you're not used to. So it challenges you on many fronts to fly a new site. So anyways, I just threw that in here too, because I think that complacency thing can bite you right in the butt. You know, it in a way, I think it bit me a little here at Heiner, because I didn't need to launch in that cycle. I didn't need to launch in that trickle and the little cross and seeing that thing booming up the hill at me. That was a really dumb decision. I shouldn't have done that. You know, looking back on it, I shouldn't have done that. You know, I've flown higher enough times. I shouldn't have been anxious to fly. Like I should have just been very calm and through my checklist, and if it didn't meet my conditions, don't fly. You know, but I don't know what got into me. I just got rambunctious and just decided to fly. And you know, at that time, and I could have waited more for a better cycle, and well, I will next time. Well, so in review, to try to condense this down to a workable checklist, I said a lot of stuff here, but said a lot of things here. So, quick review. Remember what glider I'm flying on any given day. Remember the characteristics and the stall speed of that glider and act accordingly. That's on my checklist. Look at the launch site. Definitely, I'm gonna go out to a launch site in the future. I'm gonna check how many streamers are there. If I don't like the number of streamers that are there, I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna put more streamers in to my liking, so that I can see what in the world's going on with the wind. And I'm also gonna make sure that my glider has a streamer on the on the nose wire. That way I can look at all the feedback that the wind is giving me, all of it, plus the feel and the yaw of the glider, and I can make my launch decision on that. Okay, so I'm also going to watch some thermal cycles, see how they feel. I'm going to make sure that I'm standing at the lip of where the hill gets steeper. If it's one of those type of hills, I'm going to get my glider into the relative wind, and I'm going to make sure that I have my pitch angle set correctly, and I'm going to check my yaw compared to my running path. And I'm also going to, you know, in that same process of rolling the glider down, I'm checking when I have my grip on the down tubes. I'm going to be double checking that I have that hang strap tight and that I'm hooked in. And also, you know, I'm going to be cognizant of when I run that I'm keeping more of a loose grip on the down tubes and letting the glider feel the wind while I'm controlling the pitch, and take those couple falling steps controlling that pitch, and then pouring on the power until my feet come off the ground and not popping the nose. Let's see what else. So I covered the yaw. I'm relaxing and feeling everything that is going on, and I'm remembering to walk, jog, run. To accelerate that glider, I'm doing the walk, jog, run, and if anything does bump me on my run, I'm gonna do the control frame boogie. And you know, it's not really part of my checklist, but it kind of is gonna be in the future here. I'm gonna be paying more attention to the thermal cycles, and like Karen said, I'm gonna wait until that lift and everything feels balanced, and wait for the indicators that that thermal has actually made it up to me, and it's that sweet air. You know, one of the things that that second clip of where my launch went right, I was being choosy in that video about my cycle on that. You know, I don't know I can't remember the exact day and how that all played out with how the cycles were on that day, but I remember I was refreshed for me when I watched that video again, that, you know, I was really paying attention to those two streamers that were down in front of me, and I think they might have been a little bit closer to me in that video. But what I noticed is they were both showing the same thing, and they were lightly tickling up the hill. In other words, the tails of the streamers were lifting a little bit. Neither one was doing wild gyrations. They were both looking very similar, and when I made the decision to launch, clear, boom, out of there, that wing stayed level. There was no issues with pitch or the thing being level. It just jetted right out of there. And you could see I had that old ball variometer on there with the airspeed indicator. As I was running, that airspeed came up quick, up to 20 miles per hour. So I mean, I had enough for that glider to fly. But on this crash day, compared to that, you know, I didn't have an airspeed indicator on there, so I have no idea. But I could pretty much guarantee that I didn't have the airspeed to fly, especially on that one wing, on the downwind wing that was stalled. No chance of getting that wing to fly. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day. See you out on the hill. Okay, I kind of like what I'm feeling, yeah. But I'm waiting for that one streamer to like show up instead of like down. But but the wing feels balanced. Now it feels heavy. Okay, good. Alrighty, I think I'm gonna take this. Ready? Clear. So I probably won't be flying for about a month or so, and doing this review and understanding what went wrong and how to take steps to avoid bad launches in the future, it's helping me to get over it. Talking about it, is definitely helping me to get over it. I hope I can get back on the horse pretty soon. I feel like I could right now, except mentally I feel like I could do it, or I want to do it. I'm ready to go out there and challenge the next launch situation with, new enthusiasm with my checklist. Hey, hope you enjoyed this video, and see you out on the mountains soon. Thank you.